Let's meet some coaches from ICF Philippines. Every day for the entire duration of International Coaching Week, we will meet a couple of coaches who specialize in different types of coaching methodologies. Shiela Aguinaldo is a credentialed professional certified coach by the International Coach Federation and also a certified executive coach using the Leadership Circle profile. Prior to her coaching practice, she had 25 years of experience in the areas of learning and development, talent management, and organization development with both local and multinational companies. She is currently the director of the Catalyst Asia. Hi, Sheila. It is a privilege to be with you today to interview you about the kind of coaching that you do. And so, for the benefit of the people who are not familiar with leadership or executive coaching, could you tell us a little bit more about what you do as a coach in this area?
We help leaders become effective leaders. And the process goes like first, we need to find out who they want to be as leaders and anchoring on their intentions, not so much as to action steps, but it's more of who they want to be. And then from there, we enable them with discovering where they are at right now, how they're really showing up. And if there's a gap or difference between how they want to show up versus how people are really experiencing them. So the journey is actually very personalized.
So, Sheila, I'm hearing that you help people with how they show up as a leader. And I'm wondering, from your experiences as a leadership coach, what would you say are the differences between being an executive or leadership coach with, say, being a life coach?
Interesting. You know what? People try to distinguish those two, but in my mind, they're one and the same. If you compare it to life coaching per se, because I like to believe, based on my experience, you cannot actually differentiate your personal from professional life. Who you are at work, the way you show up, your strength, your baggages that you bring with you always come from your personal life. So it's actually two-sided and it's two-pronged. It's not an either or. What I think makes it different though is that, well, there are two things. One is when you talk about executive coaching, even if you give the client the freedom to choose his personal goal in that coaching process, somehow it is anchored on his or her organization's aspiration or competencies or values. Because many times when you engage in an executive coaching program, it's sponsored by the organization. That's one distinction. Somehow there's that guiding principle that you have to anchor on, or values or competencies or framework that the organization would like to create. But at the same time, you're also enabling the executive to have that freedom to see the alignment, because I like to believe many of these values or competencies of the organization that they like to espouse somehow resonate with us in various degrees. So it's really finding that middle ground that somehow will make the executive or the leaders feel that they can actually still actualize themselves in the context of the organization. So for me, that's one. Another thing is that since this is a sponsor, the sponsorship is coming from the organization, the outcome that they like to create is not limited to the individuals, but also the organization at large. So when you talk about outcomes, the success of this program, it's always a combination of other interventions that you need to put in the organization to make it work. Performance management, the talent management system, and all the work. So it's much bigger than that. Unlike other coaching disciplines that I know, it can be limited to the individual per se. But this time, when you talk about executive coaching, it's always in the context of the organization he is engaged in.
So, Sheila, what I'm hearing from you is that there really isn't such a big difference between executive coaching and life coaching, because for both instances, it could all be boiling down to, let's say, a personal issue that the person is dealing with. But in a sense, executive coaching could also be a little bit broader because as an executive coach, you're dealing not just with the individual, but with their environment, let's say the people around them or the systems that are in place. So I'm wondering, like, given the differences, what made you choose to be an executive coach over a life coach?
I actually benefited because I was a recipient of having a good coach. I've been blessed and grateful for having bosses who are great coaches in my life. And in hindsight, I realized I would not have been as successful, or I would not probably have transformed into who I am right now had it not been for those coaches. And once you're in an organization, it takes a lot of space for you to actually get over your challenges, your inner struggle, especially when you are acting by default on your self-limiting beliefs. What happens is you're into that daily grind and you're not actually getting, you're not getting to where you want to be. And with the help of an external coach, you can actually help that person be successful even on the job, and the ripple effect is so huge. And you're not just talking about the person, since he's a leader. There's a ripple effect on the people he's leading, the people he's interacting. And these people, the way they show up, the the joys that they get or the frustrations they get from work, they also extend to their personal lives, their families, right? So I believe that since most of us are employed, very few are privileged who can afford not to work. There is still room for self transformation even when you're at work, with the help of an executive coach.
I'm hearing that executive coaching has a huge impact. And I guess in a way you find fulfillment knowing that you are creating or at least facilitating that huge impact. And I wanted to ask you, Sheila, what do you find most fulfilling about being an executive coach?
Helping them become better version of themselves. It's really very fulfilling as you can see how they overcome their challenges, because I myself, I always look at it from my own perspective because I see how impactful it is in my life and I have changed. And if I see that, it's a gift that I also get. It's paying forward. And I guess it's my ikigai, right? It's something that I'm very passionate about. It's a skills that I have the skill set that I was able to develop. It has a huge impact on this world. And at the same time, it is something also that can sustain you financially.
So I'm sure the people who are watching this video right now are interested either in seeing an executive coach or maybe even becoming an executive coach. So for those people who are thinking of pursuing the path of becoming an executive coach, could you share maybe some advice so that they would know how to follow in your footsteps?
Just recently, there are two ahas that I've internalized. It's not as if I don't know them, but somehow they get reinforced. One of that is that for you to be an effective executive coach, you must be relentless in developing yourself and self transforming yourself. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. Very few of us get to the stage of being fully realized, but it's being aware of where you are at in your own transformation journey, because it shows up, especially when this is your own source of livelihood and you're at the back of your mind. I need to be liked by my client, I need to make this good. And when that consumes you, what happens then is you're so focused on pleasing the person, or you're not, you lose your presence, and rather than doing justice to the coaching process. And sometimes when you get to trigger a client because you get triggered, then you flagellate yourself all the way, and there's a downward spiral. And all you can think of is the fear of not earning enough and not making it successful in this profession. One advice I learned recently, which is I really embrace it, is that it's okay. You just have to be authentic. The key there is not perfection, but it's more of acceptance and being more compassionate with yourself. And in doing so, it's much easier for you to go to a higher state, because the more you think about the mistake you've done, it's a downward spiral. And by being authentic and just telling your client,
You know what? I'm sorry. I lost my presence there. I was caught up thinking about this, and let me just have a few seconds to gather my moment. For me, that is authenticity. And by doing that in front of your client, you're actually role modeling to that person that the self transformation is not linear, and there's no shortcut to it. The best way actually is to go through it, acknowledge it, be aware, and embrace it. So for me, that's one. The other thing is, I've been hearing what during my certification, you have to meet your client where they're at. And somehow I get it. But recently, when I did a deeper research on adult development, that's when I realized, yeah, because even if I've learned all this technique, I got all this certification, and even if I get MCC level, they may not all apply with the client. And you have to think about, if you look at the adult stages of development and they're operating at a lower level, even if you ask all these profound questions, they will not get it because they are not in that level state of development or consciousness. You just have to look for, okay, where are they at this stages of development? What could be a window of opportunity that I can more or less try to nudge and bring him to the next level, but maybe not to that highest level. So it takes also a lot of learning, and tools are tools, but at the end of the day, it's the ICF foundation skills that will make you become effective. But these tools are also helpful to help you assess what would be the right way to coach someone.
Sheila, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your life about being an executive coach. Thank you for joining us for International Coaching Week. I am sure that you've given a lot of people a sense of what it's like to be an executive coach. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, RV. Thanks, Curly.